The Cold War is described as a political, social, and economic conflict that came along with the end of the Second World War. There were two main powers that took part in it, and those were the United States and the Soviet Union. Welcome to another view. My name is Julian Liechty, and I was born and raised in the United States of America. All my life, I've only heard what my culture describes as true.
My name is Anastasia, and I'm from Russia, and I'm quite familiar with USSR and Russian history and Soviet Union.
We will compare and contrast how we were taught about the Cold War and the stories these powers have chosen to tell about these 30 or so years of world history.
My name is Sheyla. I wrote a brief summaries on each of the events that will be discussed.
Shall we begin?
Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of Great Britain, made a speech in 1946 that is considered as the beginning of the Cold War. A part of the speech says, "An iron curtain has descended across the continent." Many people agree that the term Iron Curtain is representative of the division of the world and the main conflict of the Cold War.
Do you think that Churchill's speech began Cold War, or the Cold War would be anyway, even without Churchill's speech?
I think the Cold War started before Churchill's speech.
Right,
But
after the Second World War?
yeah, no kidding. I believe it almost started in the World War. Churchill basically just pointed it out.
Yep.
And whenever you study World War II, at least in America, it's like, oh, the lesser of two evils between the Nazis and the Russians.
Yeah.
The Nazis and the Soviet Union. Oh my. We had to make a deal with the devil. And I think basically Churchill's speech could work as a catalyst for it to actually kind of escalate. Because before that, it was just simmering, it was on low heat. It was the US and USSR just kind of poking each other and being like, ooh, what are you going to do? And then Churchill was like, actually, they're doing something. And then we were all like, it's the Cold War.
Yep. I think the same. Like, it would be anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe just Churchill made it going like open because he said it in front of people, and that made Cold War
In the public eye.
yeah, like showed to the public and made it worse, because after this they actually needed to continue this war.
The Vietnam War took place from 1955 to 1975. It was a conflict between North Vietnam and South Vietnam, communism and anti-communist ideologies.
This war took place right in the middle of the Red Scare, inspiring the US to butt in. This turned out not only to be a mistake, but a very costly one too.
The Soviet-Afghanistan War was between 1979 and 1989. It was based on the internal conflict between the anti-communists and the communist government of Afghanistan. The evident instability in the government and in the country led the Soviet Union to join the fight in this bloody war. The outcome of both of these wars was a large death toll for both of the powers. Both countries regret their participation in these wars due to the costs being so overwhelming with absolutely no results.
The Vietnam War. So, the Vietnam War in the United States is universally hated, basically. No one liked the Vietnam War. We saw it as a useless ending of thousands of our lives. It wasn't made any better by the political climate in the United States at the time. This was when the hippie movement was starting, and so we were all like against war. and that meant we were against soldiers. And that was just the dumbest thing ever. These poor soldiers were drafted. A lot of people were drafted, and they couldn't get out of it. And then they came home, and we all hated them. And I think we look back as a society now, and we are really actually very remorseful. The Vietnam War wasn't really affected by U.S. And I know that sounds really weird to say, but in the end, the U.S. lost. It's a national embarrassment. It's really just such a shame how many people had to die for the U.S. to go, oh crap, maybe we should calm down a little. Maybe we should stop poking everyone.
In Vietnam,
Right.
Trying not to let communism go on around this Asian part.
Right.
And they sucked. Because Vietnam actually didn't even have weapon.
Yeah.
And we had a joke. America was trying to push democracy one more time. Not one more time, it was actually one of the first times.
Right.
And they were kicked out with a stick, Vietnam stick, just kicking weapon, American weapon.
We have flamethrowers and they've got sticks and they
Yeah.
still won.
Yeah, they're still one. Even we think that it's not worth doing this to fight with communism.
Yeah.
Because, maybe, that's not maybe. We were pushing communism everywhere. But it is we were pushing, trying to make their government communist and give them weapon, to communist part of Vietnam. But not trying to, if you don't want, we won't do this, really interfering in your politics. We're, putting spies there, spy to show people how to rule the country. But we actually, I think, my personal opinion and maybe also USSR opinion, that we didn't want to have military conflict with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the fault of Afghanistan.
Right.
That's a shame of Afghanistan, because we were not trying to put military, trying to put military but not making a war.
Right.
And that's a shame about Afghan, because it was a war because of our interference and trying to, because Afghanistan was not, they didn't want communism. They were hitting against communism, and we were hitting against the country, I think.
I see.
Honestly speaking, we're not really speaking about Afghan war.
Yeah.
Because it is a shame. Even if we're saying that Afghanistan war was not a war, America was trying to push their interest everywhere around USSR, around us, around our communist regimes, but it was a shame.
Mm.
Even I know people my tutor neighbor.
Right.
He was a pilot in Afghanistan, and he committed a suicide after he came back after 2 years, because he said that we were killing people, and we had a command from our head of the army to for example, to bomb this village.
Right.
And the pilot didn't know who was in this village.
Right.
Just civil people, army, or whatever. He just needed to kill them, because the command was they're bad.
Right.
They're terrorists. Kill them. But he didn't know who he was killing this time. And after 2 years, he came back from Afghan war. He killed himself because he couldn't sleep. And it is, I think that is the good example what had happened in Afghanistan.
Right.
Because people who were fighting there were made to fight there, but they didn't even know what for they are fighting there.
Right.
And that's why it's a shame. And even now we're trying to make history, like, America was trying to push something there. Afghan war was not a war, even like what kind of communist interest in Afghan. So we interfered and then didn't know how to get out of there. And that's why we're like fighting 9 years for nothing, killing our people.
For
Who
nothing.
are coming back and killing themselves after they killed people in Afghanistan.
So, I've been kind of struck with this idea since we've been talking. And there's this really interesting parallel to me between the Afghan War and the Vietnam War, where both countries came and did these wars to protect their interests, right? And we're both really ashamed of it now. The first thing you said about it basically was, we're very ashamed of it. And if we look at the times, the Soviet-Afghan War ended February 15th, 1989. That's 2 years before the Soviet Union fell, And after the Vietnam War, the US government had a really hard time pushing any other kind of war like that. It wasn't till later, and we still haven't had a draft since then, I don't believe. But I think these two wars might have actually kind of led to the end of the Cold War. That kind of realization that we can't control people with guns.
Yep.
And that kind of shame for even trying. And I think that's probably the most interesting thing, is that both America and the Soviet Union had these wars, and they both killed so many people of their own people. They killed so many of their own people, and we got nothing out of it because we were protecting our interests.
Yeah.
Realizing that protecting our interests isn't worth it anymore.
How should be our interests connected with killing our own people?
Yeah.
Country's interest is people interests.
Right.
And it can be like I can kill myself for my own interests. It's stupid.
At the end of World War II, Berlin and Germany were divided and given to the Allied powers. The Soviet Union decided to barricade in East Germany and build the Berlin Wall to keep their population from abandoning them for the freedom of West Germany. The wall came down in November of 1989. Many consider this to be the end of the Cold War.
The falling of the Berlin Wall is actually something really celebrated, not only in America, but in Europe and all that stuff. It's really kind of the marker of the end of the Cold War. And it's what most people in America point to as the end. When the Berlin Wall fell, it was the end of the Cold War. And it seems to me, at least, that Russia doesn't consider the Cold War to have really ended until the Soviet Union was completely dismantled and the new Russian government had taken effect.
Because I think it's really foolish to solving problems of two countries or more countries using the other country.
Mm-hmm.
So here we can see the strict thing that Cold War between the United States and Soviet Union ended in the other country. So that is the thing we were discussing about Vietnam, about Afghanistan, about all the stuff. So two major powers were kind of deciding the destinies of other people around the world.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So bipolar system of the world like should be completely destroyed and never come back again.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of countries around the world,
Mm-hmm.
Asian countries, African countries, Latin American countries, and they're not so powerful, but they exist, and we should respect them.
And they deserve to have their own style of government.
Yeah, whatever it is, and we shouldn't use them as government or as land or whatever to solve our own problems. That's why I think Cold War should teach our countries how it's like completely like prohibited to do in the world politics, in foreign politics. Like we have an example of really awful world system that should never come back.
I agree with that. Speaking of never coming back, new Cold War.
The New Cold War is a term referring to the political, economic, and social tension between the US government and the Russian government today. Is this idea of a new Cold War just as prevalent in Russia as it is in America? Or do you think they care less? Or
We care more.
you care more?
I think Russians always care more about America than about itself, I think. Because even when you're like Google something and you type something about even like Cold War, like Cold War, you always see everything about new Cold War. America is trying to hit Russia one more time. Guys, let's protect ourselves from this bad country that is always trying to make Russia not great again.
I know how Americans feel about Trump and Putin's involvement in the 2016 election. A lot of Americans are pretty much convinced right now that Putin and the Russian government actively tried to affect the U.S. election. But I'd like to hear what the Russian opinion is.
Russian opinion is, if America thinks that we can interfere in American elections, we're the best. If we can interfere in the most protected country in the world.
You guys take it as like thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, thanks for the compliment. Sure. My personal opinion is that we didn't do this.
You didn't?
Yeah, because we had no point in this.
What about the emails that were leaked by the Russian government? What about the information that was apparently given to the Trump campaign by Russian legal officials?
You know, we're not really speaking about this in
You
Russia.
guys aren't.
Yep.
It's not a big deal to you guys at all.
It's not a big deal. So we're showing, like in all political TV shows, we're saying that, you know, guys, you have FBI, you have CIA, and they're protecting your countries from like other countries from bad stuff. And why you can't protect your country from Russian intervention in American elections? So it's your fault, you know?
It's your problem.
It's your problem if we actually did interfere in this. Yep. And what do you think about sanctions?
Sanctions. Okay, what we think about sanctions is basically America and Russia are still capable of destroying the entire world. And so I think America's a little bit scared to do anything, anything militarized, anything else. And so it seems like the only kind of option we have is the political one, and the best option in that is the sanctions. The U.S. sanctions on Russia is U.S. trying to get Russia to stop, what we see as wrong.
Personal opinion.
Yeah, personal opinion.
I think that yes, trying just to protect their interests, not to have military conflict with Russia, and that's good. I can see it from American viewpoint, right from Russian viewpoint, even like after G20, when everybody was talking about how Trump was good with Putin, and then he came back to US and signed new sanctions, it was awful. Like, why are you doing this? Ukraine is a big deal, but I don't think that we should like put something to each other because they need to deal with their government themselves, because they have their president. He was elected. So guys, do your job there.
Yeah.
Don't involve all the world to make third world war because Ukraine is doing something bad. No. That's why we're like against American politics about sanctions.
I think that actually kind of hits at the core of the matter for us Americans, at least, is it seems like Russia is needlessly opposing us, where to us at least, it seems like you guys are just like saying, oh, the United States has an opinion, we're just going to fight that, we're going to get to the other side of that, and we're going to support them. And it seems like, because at least a lot of Americans, I think, see it that way. See it as Russia's trying to poke at us, Russia's trying to start something. What do you think about that?
Russian government opinion. United States is always trying to hit Russia, and Russia is protecting itself from American interference everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Personal opinion. You're right. We are always trying to hit each other when it's like our opinion. America tries to hit us when it's American opinion. Oh, that's not right because it's American opinion. Hit them all everywhere. Sometimes we know like US don't tell us what to do. We're like independent country, but sometimes it's getting like really what you said. They said us not to do this. Let's do this! Even we don't need this. Let's do because US said not to do this. We're doing it.
Now I'm just thinking Russia's a rebellion teenager.
Russia is kind of teenager. Because Russia is actually teenager.
Fair enough.
Russia was like... Russia became Russia in 1990 first. So,
wait, 1991?
1991. And like constitution was in 1993, so like Russia is really young.
Very young,
like,
almost.
Like
so it's like about 20 years.
Yeah, USSR collapsed in 1991.
25 years.
Yeah. So we're like small, childish country trying to build USSR from ourselves, and not USSR like communist USSR, but so strong country as USSR used to be. Yeah.
Become one of the world powers again.
Exactly.
Russia just wants to
Make
stop.
Russia great again!
Yeah. Alright, thank you.
Thank you.
This was a wonderful experience.
And I think we should continue this one.
Yeah.
Another view?